Great. And so just to get things kicked off here, I want to do some quick introductions. I brought a couple of different folks from my team who will be talking and presenting today. So this will give us an opportunity for you guys to let them know who they are and the background they sort of bring to this. And so to get things started, my name is Brian Hurst. Here at Microsoft, I'm referred to as solutions specialist of our business applications product line. So the primary thing that I do is I work with the VA only as my only sort of customer. I've been working with the VA for about 15 years in a couple of different capacities. And the products that I specialize in are under sort of the umbrella of Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform, which of course includes Power Virtual Agent, which essentially is how this sort of got connected. And I know we're going to be talking quite a bit more today about things like AI and cognitive services. Thus, I brought forth a team that can go in depth in those things. So we'll just go around the horn real quick for quick introductions. Brad, you want to go ahead and get us started?
Hey, everybody. Brad Law, solution. I work with Brian a very similar capacity that he described. I handle a lot of the technical things kind of across the platform and dynamics, a little bit of PVA, a little bit of everything. So happy to be here and looking forward to this demonstration as well.
Thank you. Kadambi?
Hey guys, my name is Kidambi. I'm an app dev CSA. What that means is that anything with application development across Microsoft products, Azure, Cloud Native Platform, AI, Power Platform, I'm here to help or work with you on that.
Stephen.
My name is Stephen Kiefer, and I'm a senior consultant, and I'm on the data and AI team, and I have a special place in my heart for chatbots.
Awesome. And Aaron, I think you had mentioned you are going to be on, but not necessarily able to speak. So correct me if I'm wrong, but did you want to do an intro?
Yeah, I'll just say, hey.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Aaron Barth. I'm a chief architect for digital app innovation, work with Kadambi and Stephen Kiefer.
Great. So Gian, up to you if you want to do sort of just a broader introduction of your group, or if you think it makes sense to go around the horn.
Hey, yeah, we can quickly go around. That's fine. My name is John Boosty. I'm the PM on this VoiceBot team. Sarah, I think you all reached out to Sarah originally, or did she reach out to you, Brian?
I think we were connected by Scott Thompson.
Okay.
Because of omni-channel connections. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. So yeah, so we I don't remember exactly what what she told you. But yeah, so we're in the phase now, very early in the project still. Where the VA are the ones deciding on what platform they want to use. It's been delayed a few times, and I think now we're just trying to learn as much as we can about NLU's AIs, what functionality exists, what something maybe Microsoft can offer, as opposed to your competitors. And again, I know you guys are already working with the chatbot team. So I think I mentioned a couple of things we're looking
yes.
in this demo. But yeah, we're just really trying to learn as much as we can.
Great. And just before we move on, when you say on this project, I think it would be helpful for my team to hear from you how you describe sort of the voice project.
Oh, sure. So like what our scope is?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So our scope, as it stands now, is there's several IVR, several systems that exist within the VA. Specifically, we're looking at the National Call Center, which is the VBA IVR. We have been tasked, our Booz Allen team has been tasked to identify areas within that IVR that we think can be improved by replacing parts of it with an NLU. So the idea is to first identify these certain areas within the IVR. So right now we're looking at possibly claims. So when a veteran calls in, they're calling about the status of a disability compensation claim, or they're calling in about finding out what the status is or how to apply for the GI Bill for education. So the idea here is we want to rather than having the veteran, go through the IVR system, being routed, and talk to a live agent and find this information out. If there's a way we could provide self-service where the NLU would understand what's being asked and what the intent is, and then respond with an answer. And that way, some of these calls don't have to go to a live agent. So self-service and of course triage. So making sure we can just route the call. So if the NLU cannot answer the question that the veteran has, then at least route them to the appropriate agent.
Gotcha. Awesome.
With that said, who wants to go on my team? Sunena, you want to start off with an intro?
Yeah, hi. My name is Sunena Goyal. It's complicated, but I can put it in the chat how to pronounce my name. I'm going to be working basically on data and research with this team, and I'm a data scientist by background.
Great.
I can hop in real quick, John. Yeah, my name's Ty Allen. Really excited to kind of get in and see what you guys can offer. I'm a UX strategist by trade. For me, I like to get in and prototype and kind of mess with things and really kind of create the user experience. So really interested to see what you guys are presenting today.
Hi, I'll go next. My name is Millie Mamedova. I'm a machine learning engineer here at Booz Allen. Joined 2 months ago. Previously worked at IBM for 6 years, also doing government contracting. And I especially enjoy working with unstructured text data and doing all things NLP and text processing.
Hi, my name is Ray Walther. I'm a data scientist. A lot of experience in artificial intelligence, building different types of models, from machine translation to scraping documents, doing a lot of the full range of NLP, picking stuff up from start to finish to automate ingestion of documents and things like that. So I'll be more on the technical side for our team.
Great.
Okay, I think I'm the last one. I'm Grace Goodenough. I'm a digital communications consultant with Booz Allen, and I've been working on user experience research. So thanks for putting together this demo today.
Sure thing. Absolutely. Thanks for having us, and appreciate the introductions. Nice to meet everybody. So what we kind of have put together for you today is, let me go ahead and advance the slide here. We basically tried to start out with what we're going to do as an overview of sort of our Microsoft Conversational AI and related solutions. So really this will in some ways be a product introduction, because we really look at AI and some of the conversational AI components, cognitive services, etc., spanning a variety of tools, but having sort of root within our overall platform. So we're going to kind of break that down for you a bit so that you understand that. Then we're going to go into a real world demonstration of sort of voice with connection to omni-channel. So you can kind of see some of the concepts and products kind of working in real time. We'll show that from an end user perspective, but then we'll also kind of give you the ability to kind of go behind the curtain a bit on how we built the demo, some of the tools that we use, the AI models we built, the AI services that were leveraged. And that's just sort of, free and open kind of, Q&A exploratory. So you can ask questions throughout, but that'll be definitely an area where we're happy to go wherever you want to take us in terms of the interest. All right, let's go ahead and get kicked off. So to just help you understand the stack of solutions first off, and some of the terms and really brands that you're going to hear throughout this is, think of Microsoft as being pretty heavily focused on cloud solutions that span IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. So kind of starting down at the base, Microsoft Azure is really representative of both our IaaS and our PaaS platform. So we Microsoft literally spend $1 billion a month, growing, maintaining, enhancing, and evolving Microsoft Azure. We run it in our own data centers to provide all the solutions that we deliver as cloud solutions to customers. But in the case of Azure, we also allow customers to have sort of their own Azure instances that they facilitate and run, right? Just like the VA Enterprise Cloud has and offers to anyone within VA to essentially leverage. So, on top of this platform that includes both IaaS as well as PaaS services, we run our SaaS solutions. And so there's a variety of sort of ways to think about this, but one of the first things that you sort of hit when you think about applications on the platform is Power Automate. So it's sort of essentially our workflow engine and tool within the cloud so that you can build workflow activities that can not only perform functions, but leverage connectors in order to connect to data outside of our cloud. So we have a variety of connectors that come out of the box. They're in categories of standard as well as premium connectors, but you can also build your own custom connectors. So this way, integrations are streamlined and reusable. And on top of this, you have a number of different SaaS applications that are represented here, a few different examples. So if you think of everything from what's included in the Office suite, SharePoint, Word, PowerPoint, etc., we're delivering these as SaaS solutions. When it comes to sort of using the platform for rapidly low-code, no-code building of applications, Power Apps is there to do that, as well as connecting into those Power Automate workflow functions. Power BI, you may or may not be familiar with. It's our sort of Gartner leading business intelligence tool, pretty heavily used across the VA. Finally, you have Power Virtual Agent, which, as you know, is being leveraged in the VA Virtual Agent project. It's being leveraged in a couple other areas around the VA as well. And there's many examples all over the internet of customers that have deployed, customer service type chat functions using Power Virtual Agent. And lastly, from a product and brand perspective, if you hear Dynamics 365, because you will when we start to talk about omni-channel, you can really, didn't mean to do that. You can really think of Dynamics 365 as just a suite of pre-built Power Apps, right? So we have this platform for building applications. We, Microsoft, build a suite of applications on that platform and provide them with a sort of different licensing model because it's a pre-built application for things like customer service and case management, which includes all of the contact center functionality. So again, just helping you to sort of understand how this essentially works across IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. It's a major focus here at Microsoft to not only provide these underlying services, but build applications on top of them to make them more accessible as features, as opposed to having to know how to build everything that you need. So if we sort of dive deep into the Azure component, again, we're talking about infrastructure services, we're talking about platform services. Busy sort of slide here, but it really allows you to sort of, get a good understanding of when we say Azure, the breadth of what it is that we're essentially talking about across those infrastructure and platform services. And when we're talking more about bots, as well as natural language understanding and other elements that are part of cognitive services, you can get a feel for, what we're going to be focused on primarily here today, these cognitive services, APIs, as well as sort of the bot framework. So you'll see this theme kind of like the bot framework, where the bot framework is part of Microsoft Azure, but we built Power Virtual Agent, PVA, as a SaaS solution riding on top of those services, but still remaining the ability for our SaaS applications, or really any custom-built application outside of our cloud, to leverage those services as desired. let me kind of pause there and ask if there are any questions on anything here or anything I've mentioned so far. Okay. All right, so moving on. I wanted to provide another example of one of the best examples I find where this concept of leveraging AI services that are part of Azure, but surfacing them up into SaaS applications. Part of the platform is this tool called AI Builder. You can access it from Power Apps. You can access it from Power Automate. You can access it from PVA. You can access it standalone. But it's one of the best examples of how, you know, we sometimes use the term democratizing, right, things, bringing these lower level services up to the surface of a SaaS tool. So as you can see in this screenshot here, you know, you can build and put into Power Automate flows and applications functions, you know, pre-built functions that are essentially leveraging AI capabilities, whether they be text analytics, sentiment analysis, other elements of working with documents and AI functions. So again, just another example of that sort of cross of PaaS and SaaS working together. To expand sort of the accessibility of this, you start to see things like these functions being surfaced into tools that users are leveraging, just like Microsoft Teams. So here's an example of, you know, being able to create things right within Microsoft Teams, having sort of pre-built templates for things here that says, you know, I want to, as a user, process receipts from Teams with AI Builder and put the results into Excel. Pre-built functions and models ready to go for end users. If we were to sort of take a deeper dive into the bot platform, same thing is true. The underlying Azure bot framework, Azure Cognitive Services, PaaS, and SaaS on top of that. We have a variety of examples from across the VA. On the left-hand side at the top here, you see one of the first bots that we really ever had go live within the VA, which is the Able Help Bot for IT. So it's connected to ServiceNow. You can access this as a VA employee for submitting and getting getting Q&A around technical issues and tickets. You're probably aware that when the VA coronavirus chatbot went live within VA, that was based on Microsoft bot technology. We have been working with some groups within HR and have built bots that run inside of Microsoft Teams for general HR questions. And then up here at the top right, of course, is the VA virtual agent. And what I wanted to sort of call out here is that when we start to talk about omni-channel, one element of that particular bot, if you were to go to it now and type in talk to an agent, it'll give you the message that this chatbot cannot directly connect you to an agent today. We're working on that because the vision of when this was actually selected to be put in place was that it would easily hook up to the contact centers that are already running Dynamics 365 for the CRM. You mentioned the National Call Center. That is one of them. The Community Care Center Call Center, the Educational Call Center, the Member Services Call Center, all running sort of Dynamics. And that's where this already has the ability to essentially hand off from that bot experience into the virtual agent. And then the virtual agent would be answering those questions and have the ability to hand off live to a live agent, passing over all of that context. What you're going to see in the demonstration today is, while we've had this capability now for a couple of years with this handoff to omnichannel, where we are going now and have started to arrive is that this same Power Virtual Agent, which is a text-based bot for Q&A and handoff, is now become enabled through voice. So another part of Azure is Azure Communication Services, other Azure services such as Lewis for language understanding, coming together into Power Virtual Agent to be able to do the same function, have that handoff, and function essentially as the IVR to understand an intent and make the appropriate transfer. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Stephen to talk a little bit more about Microsoft's NLU strategy and ultimate vision and how it ties back to some of these, products and services we've been talking about. So, Stephen.
Thank you, Brian. So, natural language understanding, there's a couple different ways to interpret it, but everybody's seen the chatbots where they have command-based, where you have to know the command. Think of it as the old, when you call into a phone, press 1 for this, press 2 for that. And when you translate that over to a text bot or a chat bot, you have to know the key words to trigger those phrases. It works, but it's very limited because how do you surface those commands and whatnot? What Microsoft has is a cognitive service that allows you to enable natural communication. So all the different ways that you can ask a certain question, they all lead to the same intent. What can you do? I need assistance. Please help. These are just 3 variations of wanting to get help. And you can see it, like there's a lot of different ways that can go. And the intelligence allows you to evolve. So not only do you see what's coming, what you have at the beginning, but you'll see what your users are using, and you'll be able to learn from that and have those utterances then either get applied to known intents, or you may have to create a new intent to solve that utterance situation. It also allows for complex interactions. So going back to like a command base where you would have to say, I want to withdraw money. Then you have to tell it how much money. Well, with the language understanding with Microsoft, you can say something like, I want to withdraw $200 from my savings account. What that allows you to do is now you know all the information, so you can just supply back a confirmation message to the user and process that transaction. So you don't need as many interactions if the user provides you those details up front. Take advantage of it, make the conversation easier, and that's what Lewis allows us to do in other cognitive services with text analytics and then sentiment analysis. They can all allow you to transfer information as well. Go ahead, Brian. Next slide. So the basics are an intent and entities. And what we talked about earlier with the intent is being able to ask multiple different ways and not even having to provide the command, but the model will learn from what intents are out there, and it'll provide you with the best intent for that. So think about it as one instance is when your input method is text, you're typing, and you make a typo. Well, that typo, if you're looking at a poorly trained model, is not going to pick it up. But with Lewis, we can apply different modeling to it, and it'll allow you to pick up that typo. So it'll be close enough and they'll understand the difference. Another thing to think about is users on mobile devices. They type a different way than when you're on a keyboard. You may use shorthand. You may type in abbreviations instead of the full phrase. And all of these can be suited and used and supplied, and then the model will pick that up and provide the proper intent. Same thing for entities where we have built-in primitive types, so you can have pre-built model extraction where it'll pull out zip codes, phone numbers, cities and states, but you can also build complex types, so custom to your own use case. For example, and the example I have here is like if you were doing one for a pizza delivery system, you would need to know pizza toppings. This is a complex type, so you would be able to provide multiple different custom types for that entity as well. And going back to city and state zip codes and that, going into voice, something to consider is people do not talk the same way across different regions. I'm in Pennsylvania, so like when we do a city state here in PA, we say PA instead of Pennsylvania. It's very rare that you'll hear anybody from Pennsylvania say, I'm from Pittsburgh, PA, Pennsylvania. They'll always say Pittsburgh, PA. But you don't hear that same phonetic sound coming out of like San Francisco, CA. They would always say California. So these are the little things that make a big difference when you're talking about the different input methods of voice versus text. And another one that is always fun to play around with is when you're providing a zip code. Postal codes in the US are 5 digits. However, you'll find people that don't say 0, instead they'll say O. So you will want to be able to, we'll have that, like you can supply that to the model and say 16801 is the same as 1601, and it'll be able to handle that kind of stuff. So those little things make for a very big improvement on your user experience, and that's some of the power that the language understanding models we have will be able to provide.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephen. We're going to go ahead and transition to the demo. So while we do that, any questions on anything we've covered so far? Brad, are you going to go ahead and take over sharing? Okay, I see you have. Thank you.
I already have. Yep. Hello, everyone. All right. So as Brian mentioned, I'm going to go through kind of the demonstrations that we put together for some of these concepts. So to get started, I want to kind of give you a kind of lay of the land of what we're talking about here a little bit more with this kind of visual. This is more of the architecture that we're referring to. Now, as you'll see right here on the right side, okay, number one, we're just going to use a veteran for this example. The veteran is going to call a 1-800 number, okay, as expected. It's going to go through our communication services, supported by communication services. That is then going to be routed to Omni channel, okay? And this is going to be the voice channel here, all right? So that's Dynamics 365 voice channel. Now we have the point of making a decision. Now the veteran could automatically interrupt the bot and say, I just want to talk to an agent. Give me a human, as we just mentioned in the last slides. And that would automatically send that veteran over here to an agent, and whatever available agent. Obviously, we fully support whatever that characteristic is, skill-based routing, whatever type of routing that we need to have to get that to the proper agent. If this is something that deals with, I think the example we were given was something, crisis related, we could send it to a crisis specialist or a group or a queue, whatever that is that we need to do in that routing. Now, example where we want to kind of flip back, okay, and we're not going to go directly to an agent. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to use that intent. We want to understand the intent of that agent. We're going to go ahead and pick that up, and I'm not sure how familiar you guys are actually with PVA or Power Virtual Agents, but we have a topic in there. One of the topics is going to be a fallback topic. That fallback topic is going to be right here in the center. Okay, so let's just say, for example, and you'll see this in some of the latter demonstrations themselves. Again, this is just an overview I'm going to show you. That topic may be homelessness as an example for the first one. They may not say the word homeless. We may not even tag the word homeless. They may say something completely different. My mom kicked me out. I have nowhere to live. Okay, and we want to be able to interpret that to be homeless. And that's where that's going to get into step 5 here and understand that intent. We can't understand that intent of what that caller wants. And that's going to be processed here inside of AI Builder. AI Builder is the one we've trained that particular AI. We've trained this bot to be able to speak directly to whatever it is that we want to gather in terms of intent. And we can define what that intent is and what those topics are. And I'll go a little bit more into kind of topics and the fact that I'm not using some of the PVA topics, if you're familiar with those. I think Stephen mentioned those. That's a capability we have, but we're not using PVA topics. We're doing this all through AI Builder and understanding the intent based off a trained model, which is going to tell us exactly with a prediction score what we think this particular veteran may want. Now from here, it's bi-directional. We're going to send that back out to flow here, and we're going to respond back to the user through PVA, and we're going to communicate with the bot back to the user to go ahead and figure out what it is and however we need to properly respond to that user. In this case, in one of the examples too, that particular user is going to be able to then be prompted by the bot. Let's say they want to know where the closest medical center is. That's our second scenario. The bot can ask them, how would you like to be advised of the medical center? And that could either be email or SMS. In our example, they're going to choose SMS. That information is going to make it back through Flow here, and it's going to be sent back to the user. Now, Flow in our example, think of as our workflow engine. Again, not sure if you guys are familiar with some of the products that I'm referring to here. But again, that's just a kind of quick overview of all the different components. This happens instantly. Within a second, we can move through some of these processes to get that agent on the line or to interpret that intent as well. All right, so the first scenario was one that we were given as well. Okay, this is going to deal with Ted Bailey. So for scenario A, Ted Bailey is a veteran. He's calling in. He's describing a fear he has of being homeless. He's going to speak to a bot I just named Diane. The natural language understanding is going to understand that issue and route that to a crisis line automatically. Again, he's contacting his VA through his cell phone. He's going to speak to Diane the bot. He's going to just speak that intent. Now, again, if you're familiar with how our PVA products work, we're not using topics. We're not using, text topics that he has to say exactly. We're matching it based off a trained model, which is going to understand what that intent is. And that's, again, that NLU, the natural language understanding coming from AI Builder. So I'll go ahead and play this particular. I do have these recorded as well, and you should be able to see it. I did turn on the sharing, but let me know if you do not hear it.
Hi, I'm Diane, the virtual agent. I can help with your questions. How may I help you today?
Well, I've really been having a hard time, and I think I've lost my place, and I just don't have anywhere to live.
I'm sorry to hear about your situation. Don't worry. Let me connect you with the crisis line to help with your situation.
Okay, so what we heard there is the bot actually interpreting that intent. Again, we're not categorizing the words homelessness or anything around those categories. The trained model is effectively figuring out what that intent is through that NLU processing. Now, what would happen here is that would actually go over to the agent themselves. Let's see here, next one. Okay, and the agent in this example here would receive. So again, I would have sent this over to the agent. It's a crisis situation. And from the crisis agent's perspective, this is what they would see within our omni-channel capability within a call center. They would be routed to this. This would be a queue. This would be a place, a special place for handling things of this sort, whether it's homelessness, a crisis line, whatever that is, we can send that over to this particular queue. So let me go ahead and click here, and we'll see what that looks like. And what we'll see here is right now I'm marked as being read, and in just a second, what you'll see is that toast notification to the agent. The agent can accept that message. If we know who this person is, we can already pull up their contact information. As you see here on the left side, we have everything we need. We've got the actual conversation itself with the bot. I've left my home. I'm really scared. I don't have anywhere to live. This was all picked up from that recording I showed from the. This is the second part of what I recorded and how the agent would see this in that transcript. We also see that the NLU picked up the prediction. It predicted as homeless just due to the things that Ted said. As we also picked up as being English as well. We do have support for other languages as well. Other just general information from Omni-channel, we can prompt them out to, in this case, a burn pit just from something that Ted may have said. We've got Smart Assist and other ways to support. Obviously, I let out a scope for our meeting today, but a lot of things that we can do on that side on Omni-channel as well. All right, so our second scenario, scenario C that we were given, is going to be Ted wanting to reach out and contact or get some contact information for his closest medical center. In this example, Ted has just moved to Northern Virginia. just north of Reston, which is effectively where I live. He wants to call VA and ask where his closest medical center is. And we want to determine the intent based on what Ted is actually saying and process that quickly to provide Ted the assistance that he needs. You'll see in this example, Ted is going to make the call. He's going to have that conversation again with Diane, the bot. This is the same bot. It's going to determine that intent. Again, this is just a part of that training model. This is just a second category that we're supporting with Diane, this particular bot. And ultimately, Diane's going to prompt Ted to schedule an appointment and send a confirmation text via email, or well, options are either a text or an email. He's going to opt for an SMS.
Hi, I'm Diane, the virtual agent. I can help with your questions. How may I help you today?
My closest VA medical center.
I can surely help you with that. Please enter your zip code.
20165.
Thank you. Please wait while I find the nearest medical center. Montgomery County, Virginia Clinic 15810, Gaither Drive, Shady Grove, Development Park Suite 130, Gaithersburg, Maryland 20877-1429. Would you like me to schedule an appointment? Please say yes or no.
Yes.
Would you like to have this information sent to you? Please say yes or no.
Yes.
How would you like me to send this to you? Options are email, SMS.
SMS.
May I have your phone number, starting with area code, please?
202-277-8663.
Thank you. This information has been sent.
Okay, so that kind of summarizes everything there. So again, we saw the ability for just using some of the various components that I mentioned in the original architecture diagram, where it's just the bot interact with the other services that we had. It's all very seamless from their perspective. Again, that could also have been sent over an agent if necessary. We have the ability using Flow, an example, again, our workflow engine, to actually allocate based on the questions that the bot is asking, to send an SMS through one of our other Azure services as well. And now Ted's going to have that information. He could also have his schedule information sent to him as well. Obviously, this is a very simple example, but for something like you had mentioned claims, this would be an excellent example of where you could have some claims details be presented back to a user as well. They could call in, they could ask questions regarding a claim, provide a claim number, a claim ID. The system can go back, provided there's access to the system, if that's been established within VA, to get that claim, whatever that current status of that claim is, give that back to the user, as well as send that via email or SMS if you're able to do that as well. Again, now we can start taking some of that workload off those agents and allow for that self-service. Finally, I think, Brian, I'm not sure if we wanted to go into some of the reporting against PVA right now, or did we want to go ahead and shift into Q&A right now? I've got a couple just images of some of the reporting.
I think if you have a couple images on the reporting, it'd be worth showing. We're doing pretty good on time. Still got 20 minutes, so if you show those, we should still have a good solid 15 minutes for Q&A.
Okay. So some of the out-of-box reports that are available, a little bit of nuances on the GCC side, but effectively we have the ability to capture some of the details here. This is just one of the analytic reports. You can also do custom reports using Power BI, which I believe I showed is one of the I didn't mention it, but it's one of the outputs in the architecture diagram. But this is a Power BI report. Here we can see our total number of sessions, the engagement rate, whatever that is, The rate of resolution is going to be low because we've just been killing all of the conversations and not actually supporting them or ending them. Again, we've got other details here for engagement over time. You can see that, shockingly today was very busy as we prepared for the demo. So it's a big spike of engagements today, but that could be your typical Monday morning. We've got that detail. We can see some of the resolution rates associated with some of the subjects that are actually being categorized. Obviously, fallback is a larger bucket here, and that's here to the bottom left. And then some other just details as well in terms of sessions over time and kind of what that trending looks like. Other reports that are available too is there is the ability for some of the overlapping topics. We don't have any in here, but if we're using just core PVA without some of the AI as well, the AI will actually allow and present some of the overlapping subjects. So if you've been, say, building out your models for some time and there is some overlap in some of the questions and answers, it will start identifying that as well. You can use that to kind of make changes on the fly as you move forward and as we start to, mature those models. And whatever the subjects and some of the customer service areas that we're talking about. We've got topic suggestions as well. Here, one of the other items that has bubbled up quite a bit is a lot of people have called in asking for registry information that would be around burn pits. We've got a couple Spanish things too that have actually been categorized as well, or medical centers. I'm homeless. We're starting to capture those metrics too. And that's that AI that's you don't ever really see. It's behind the scenes kind of producing some of the details of this report. Next, we've got a few other things on customer satisfaction scores. Pretty straightforward. If we're capturing those abilities too, we can capture that here. That's also available into the bot. One thing I didn't show actually in the agent view was we've got sentiment analysis as well. And a lot of capturing that ability to kind of capture how happy our customers are. Again, so it allows us to make those changes on the fly. If that's training for agents, whatever it is that we need to do as well. And then finally, we've also got some of the analytics. So really can't see much here, but effectively this is some of the transcripts that are available as well. So if you need to take some of the transcript data and do whatever else you want to do with it, that's being stored within the database itself. If that's build reports against it, if that's apply other tooling to it, other analytics, those transcripts, that content of those verbal transcripts that we saw in the 2 phone calls is all available as well. But that's same thing for text. So all that transcript record can be related back to that agent, whoever supported that particular veteran, and we can have those details for training, whatever else that we may need going forward. All right, so I guess probably at this point we could switch over to Q&A. That's all I had for today.
Awesome. Kanambi, I think that you were going to have some elements of sort of showing, the models and things that were built within the demo, if I'm remembering correctly. Sorry, we haven't reviewed this in a little bit. But let me just kind of pause and ask, what questions are there out there from what you've seen so far? We're happy to sort of go in and answer specific questions or just walk you through kind of how the behind the scenes of the demo.
Hey, this is John. Thank you for the demo. It looks great. I had a follow-up question that I had asked earlier. If that was a telephony system that was with Microsoft, and it sounds like it is. My follow-up question is, I think they're using Cisco now as their telephony. If they want to keep that, would this NLU still send over call information like transcript data? Like, does it integrate with other telephony systems, or is it just something that has, or is it only for Azure?
Yeah, so Microsoft is not really in the telephony business directly, right? We're not competing with the Ciscos and things. We have launched a service as part of Dynamics, which we call first party voice, where if a smaller organization wants to be able to buy a complete one-stop solution for CRM for their business, to include everything from the CRM to chat to a telephony component, we do offer it there based on Azure Communication Services, as Kanami mentioned. But know that the overall Power Virtual Agent and connection into the natural language understanding is meant to be able to function as a service that can be connected to existing telephony systems.
Okay, got it. Is there also any sort of, you guys talked about intent and anything that can be integrated with the existing voice bots. So, for example, I know they did a lot of work on, how to get a COVID vaccine. Is there any way, rather than reinvent the wheel on our end, if we wanted to also provide that service through a voice bot, is there any way we can leverage the work they already did, and just plug it into our voice bot, or are they pretty much separate applications?
The work that they did. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Aaron.
Oh yeah. Hey guys. So one thing, when you say they, are you talking about the VA.gov team or the coronavirus chatbot? I mean, both of them were using sort of bot technologies. Which one are you referring to, or something different?
No, I don't know. There's a voice bot team that also works with our client Luciana. Alina is their PM.
Yep.
And it's kind of similar project, just they did there's the chatbot, and I know one of their the functionalities they offered is allowing the veteran to learn more about the COVID vaccine.
Yes. Yeah. So I guess I would call it like the VA Gov chatbot team under Luciana. And one thing they're doing, which is pretty exciting, is they're using sort of a microservices architecture with skills, and skills can connect to each other. So if there was a skill defined, almost like a reusable component, you could also call that skill. And that's really, I think, Luciana's, desire, right, is to sort of have those composable like building blocks, and then other sort of bots and capabilities could use it on multiple channels, right, voice or other things.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Let's get a couple of more questions in chat as well.
Yeah, I was actually going to type the answer to Ty, but I can just answer it. It's one of the answers. So entities versus utterances. Entities are the important piece of the conversation, of the utterance. So in the example, I need to book a trip from Atlanta to Seattle. The important pieces are Atlanta, Seattle, the destination and the arrival. All the other words are just part of the utterance. So if you extract the entities out of it, then you need to book a trip, and these are the two places: the destination and the utterance and the arrival. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thanks.
So another example, and this is something I've seen from previous chatbots. When we first deployed the Able bot, we seen people type in long utterances. When the best example I can tell you is somebody went on vacation and they dropped their laptop in the sand, and now when they turn it on, it doesn't work. It's a very long utterance, lots of information, but the important part is laptop doesn't work. Everything else is meaningless. Doesn't matter how it doesn't work or why it doesn't work, it just doesn't work. So that's like the entities are in that is the laptop, and the intent would be incident. So everything else is just extra words.
Perfect. Got it. Thank you.
And Brian, I can answer the question about the scalability.
Great.
Yeah, so that's one of the benefits of using the SaaS platform, right? Is that you have essentially, engineers and service engineers on the back end, sort of monitoring systems and things to be able to expand and contract as needed to handle spikes in load. When you sort of subscribe to SaaS, you're pretty much saying like, this is my user load, kind of, handle it, right? And then the architecture on the back end is essentially, expanding and contracting for that. If you went with the PaaS route, then, you would want to use services that had that expanding and contracting capability in there. There may be scenarios where if you were having, if you were, running your own models or sort of hosting your own, models and things like that, that you would want to make sure you incorporated some sort of auto scale, if that was like sort of a custom model deployment in order to do that. So you'd want to kind of take into account. But when you're dealing with a SaaS solution, really those peaks and valleys are expected, workloads across other government agencies, right? And essentially that's sort of factored in, I would think. Do you agree, Brian? You're on mute. That's good.
Yep. Kidambi, were you still going to show anything in terms of maybe the model or what have you? I know we discussed that before, but I didn't know if that had changed based on what we had presented today.
No, but if they're
Okay.
interested in knowing how
If the
to
questions draws there. Okay.
Yeah, I was hoping. I mean, we have data scientists and people here, so I was hoping we'll gear the conversations towards their questions instead of us.
Perfect. Makes sense.
Yeah, and the Ty, as Raymond was asking about NLU training happening on the Azure. So this that's a loaded question. So I might have to respond that in multiple ways. And one thing for this demo, yes, it was built because it's completely a SaaS solution, so it did get trained in Azure. But that doesn't mean that's the only option you have. You can also switch. That's the cool thing about this product is you can also use mix and match features. So you can bring model, you can train it locally, and you can upload your model using Azure ML, or you can use ML.NET, or you can use with Python, and then you can create APIs and then use that in your bot, train it somewhere else, and bring the model and start using it like a predictions. You can do that too, but you're now getting out of SaaS and getting into PaaS, or you can also host them in containers and you can go from there. So it entirely depends upon the flexibility that you're looking for. Hope that answers your question, Raymond.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I've seen for other things that training had to be done on Azure, depending on what, I think for translation stuff.
Right, that depends entirely on the choice of whether you want to use PaaS or SaaS, right? If you're comfortable doing everything, okay. But
that makes sense.
I would recommend doing the Azure one because for the low amount of things, you get a humongous amount of compute power depending upon the size of the data set. So something to think about. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was kind of what I was also thinking about with this, is trying to get an idea of cost implications with going with platform as a service as opposed to like the solution kind of off the shelf. Trying to figure out, because if it's if you were spinning up individual, if you have to like dynamically spin up services on the Azure, if you're doing the platform approach versus the scaling, if it's appropriate enough with the SaaS solution, is there something that we can like a calculator that we can reference to figure out, like, we have a rough idea of like the throughput of calls, the volume of calls we can expect, something we could plug these into and try and come back to the clients with a sort of a cost evaluation, you know what I mean?
Right, I totally understand, but let's break that apart just for my understanding. So if you're going to host your own models and then run it in Azure for prediction alone, so that means that you have the model with the data sets built somewhere with your own resources outside, then you have to build an interface or a contract for consuming that model in your prediction, and you got to host it in Azure. So now that's a second cost you got to incur. And the third one is then you got to have to consume that API so that you can get your predictions into a bot. So that's a third thing that you're going to, among the calls that you make into your APIs, right? So those are the costs that you have to accommodate at a very high level. But if you host everything, if you do the whole thing, everything in Azure as part of the SaaS product that was just demoed to you, then you pay a bulk and you don't have to worry about mix and match or cherry picking, which one runs here, which one runs there, adjust the knobs here. So in other words, yes, you have the flexibility, but you also have the cost complexity involved. So the more knobs you have, the more complexity, hence the cost, right?
Yeah. Right.
So,
and
again,
I guess
I'm sorry, it's not a straightforward chart comparison because it entirely goes with your usage.
Yes, right. Yeah, I think that's the answer that I kind of expected, because you're you're touching more services, presumably, as opposed to just the single service.
Right, and also you're touching about the building the model itself, storing the data, training the data, the resources for training. That is completely out. That needs to also be taken into account.
Oh yeah, and I think the question is, if we've reached a point where I guess, is there any sort of like transfer learning or continuous, like with the SaaS solution, is there some sort of like a fundamental like baseline model that you can refine and fine tune with some additional data or is it kind of it's just going to perform what it performs? If you want anything different, then you are going to have to move to the custom models.
I think this was what Brian was talking about. So let me show you what the demo did, the easiest of all, and see if that answers your questions, and then we can go from there. Can you guys all see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So this is the AI builder that's part of the Power Platform solution itself. So I was playing around with it. As you, oh my God, come on. Sorry about that. I shouldn't have clicked that. All right, there we go. So this was a model that we built for AI for this sake. So if I click the edit model here, it's got where you can add your, so with AI Builder, since this is a SaaS product, you got to have your data in a table in Dataverse. Right, so you create a table and you upload your data into columns that you want. So one for your prediction, the class, and one for your text, because you can choose the model you want, whether the text classification, image classification, multi-label classification. Depending upon the model that you choose, you create a table and put your class and identifiers and tags and your text in there. So we created a table called VA model data source table, and the text category has got all these text that it loads up. And to your question, you said, can I fine tune it? Yes, the fine tuning aspect at the SaaS level here is by adding more data or making it more accurate enough or granular enough so that there's no ambiguity between these statements. So here is all the text that we entered. So basically, at a minimum, this requires 10 texts, 10 unique distinct text per class. So we went online, made sure we cleaned it up. So we what you guys call the featureization aspect of it, and we put it in here. You also see a number in here for medical center because this is a very unique number that very specifically means something. So if you just say, what is this number? The bot will come back and say, hey, that's the VA medical center, so something like that. So you put in the text in there. As you see here, it's all at a lot of complex things, and that is all abstracted out. So all you have to do is add the text, create the tags in here. You can keep adding text into it. Go to the table here that says VA model data source, and you can add this column. Here is where you're building the model. This is where you tell, okay, that's the column for the features. That's the prediction column called the label, and it's saying, okay, based on what the data you have, the SaaS is telling, the model is telling that, okay, it's going to be one tag per tag. So it's going to be a single classification model. We also support all this stuff. You can have multi-label classification or multi-classification depending upon how your data sources. Yeah. And then you click next. So you come back and the tuning that you have here is only altering the data. However, the tuning of what kind of algorithm do you want, what kind of additional features you want to add to increase the accuracy into your features. That is something then you get into the PaaS model where you leverage Azure ML, or you can leverage, if you're in C#, you can leverage ML.NET, or in Python, you can write using Python ML packs, and then you can build that model. So that's what I'm saying. The more knobs you want, the more PaaS and more pro code you go into. But from this perspective, this is all the maximum tuning you can do. You can alter the number of features that you want. You can alter the algorithms. You can alter all those accuracy points that you define in your algorithms to increase the prediction count. And then you click next, and then you click select the language of the whole thing, and then you say, okay, it's going to validate, and then you say click train. Okay. This is the SaaS level of tuning the model. But again, if for pro code, you obviously have Azure ML, or in a programmatic way, you can do C# ML.NET, or you can do Python.
And remember that, when you see these sort of SaaS solutions that are, providing one of the major benefits to the VA is, and this is, very much why, in my understanding, Luciana's team ended up going with PVA as sort of the front end solution, is this is all covered under our Azure ATO within VA. So it really streamlines, getting to these solutions because, everything is under that ATO. So just something to be. So while this is a new tool that is, kind of out there in terms of AI Builder and using SaaS, it's got a lot of advantages in going that route within VA.
So if I can ask about just this model that's being, like, what all is happening under the covers? Is it going through, taking the text, doing NLP, identifying certain entities, or, filtering out stop words from all these things, figuring out what are the key entities that are going to be, or the key utterances that you want to look for that are going to be building the classification? Is it doing like some sort of TF-IDF to identify your mappings? What's the
the underlying
tasks?
algorithm is something that is not exposed to us, but if I have done this programmatically also under AML, so if I had to do this kind of classification model, then it will be a binary classification model where it will start using the text as one of the features and then predict one of those tags, because it is not a single classification. It's not going to give you entities. It's going to predict the label, whether it is the labels that I showed you, right? The tags, it's called. Right. It's going to predict that based on binary classification model, because that's the most accurate one, at least from a binary perspective. And that could change. What this does behind the scenes is something that we are not privy to, because that's IP of Microsoft. But if you were to write it, because I have written on my own multi-label and single-label classifications using ML.NET and Azure ML, it does give you multiple choices of which is the best algorithm to use and all the stuff. So I'm thinking this would be binary classification.
Well, if it's got multiple classes.
Yes, multiple classes, but it's going to predict only one of it. Multi-class. Oh, sorry, not my. What is it? LGBM? Is that what? I'm. Maybe you guys can help me with the actual algorithm for multi-class. I think it's LGBM. I got to load up my code for it. But that's.
Yeah, I was. Gradient booster. I would assume that it's going to score against all your classes and return the highest results, right? Because maybe you'll have words that appear in multiple classes.
So let's test this
together.
No, not with this.
Maybe this is too in the weeds. We don't necessarily have to. I don't want to detract too much from the call at large. Just having an idea of what we can. Oh yeah, okay. Let's see what this comes back. That'd be interesting. Yeah.
So that's what you get. But if I say,
if you say VA, like what's VA? Because I saw VA was presumably on something is going to be in. Yeah, can you say something that's maybe more like a conflicting, like veteran homeless or medical homeless or something?
Is that good?
Sure. Can you say like medical center homeless? I'm curious to see. Okay, so it's just returning the highest confidence, presumably, because it's scoring still against everything.
Because remember, we chose it's one tag per line. If we had multi-label classification and each text, like if there is a text in here and this has two tags in this, then you'll get this here.
Yeah, it's softmax, right? It's just returning the softmax classification.
Right.
Now, Kadambi, isn't there another like hosting option? So, I mean, essentially, we have SaaS, and then you have sort of like roll your own that we discussed. But really, the other one I thought might be interesting to discuss is actually bringing, sort of a finely tuned model like in Azure ML into hosting within the SaaS service. Isn't that also an option, Kadambi?
Yeah. Yes, that is one of the past solutions where they build the model outside, they train the model outside. Once they have the model, they can import it into Azure ML or use a programmatic way of creating an API that consumes that model and host it in Azure. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, and just thinking about AI Builder, like having a model that it wasn't created in AI Builder, but essentially is giving you some of that benefit.
But so you could have like a continuous learning model that is continuously improving, releasing new models. You can just push that new model to this SaaS AI Builder. Is that kind of what you're saying? You can just say, hey, use this model, or
what I'm thinking is, like you mentioned different costs, right? And I just want to highlight the costs of, there's actually compute costs, but there's other operational costs and sort of management of running your own infrastructure, right?
Oh yeah.
And so,
of course,
right, and like sort of like when you build a container that hosts your model, now it has to be scanned and updated and things that aren't necessarily data scientist type stuff, more IT type stuff, and that's a cost kind of associated with that as well. So if you were to work in a sort of a pro AI mode and fine-tune the model, and then could host it within the AI Builder so that it could be accessed using low-code capabilities like Power Automate, kind of bringing it all together, that would sort of allow you to have a finely tuned model without the hosting overhead, both compute and operational IT overhead. Something to think about.
So this is one of the ML.NET code that I wrote that you can also use, that Aaron was just talking about. You can build your own model, create your own training stuff using the classification. So this is multi-classification that I did for something else. Yeah, so you can do
there's
this
only two classes in the example that you've shown. Is that what it is by its binary?
Yes.
Oh, okay. That was my confusion. Okay.
Right, and then you can also so here you once you train the model, you got the model saved and you can store it somewhere. And then you can load it in. You can store it in a blob storage. You can store it in and fronted by CDN, and then load it in an API. And now you can consume that in your bot.
Okay.
Or you can bring it into Azure ML and further tune it, because Azure ML does have pipelines that you can set up for automation to or tune every single way and collect all the predictions that didn't happen, auto tune, auto learn your models.
Okay, that's great.
And Luciana might have some sort of areas where you could test out Azure capabilities. You may want to reach out to her to see if that's a possibility. And I could definitely cannot be myself and Stephen could work with you guys if you needed to kind of set up a lab or something, right, to get more information.
Yeah, and with these models, I mean, with Azure, we also provide things like sentiment analysis for the text that's coming through, so you can find out. And we can also, with approval, I think, with the latest things, we can handle, since it's a speech, we can handle emotion kind of stuff and find out whether the person is emotional and handle empathetic responses for the user. So we can provide all that stuff going forward. You're not just stuck with, oh my God, this is a model, we got the bot, good, done. No, this is just a starting point.
Right. Yeah.
Right, yeah, and as you saw, medical center is not text; it is driven by the model. So,
do you guys have the availability to spin up a test environment or a lab that we could actually use and do some of that stuff with it? We could bring a use case and actually test some stuff out. What's the requirements there?
For the deeper, the AI sort of,
if we were gonna
NLU discussions, I mean, I think not necessarily on this call, but I do think that getting you guys, essentially the type of access. I mean, I don't know if you guys have zero accounts or not, right? They're kind of IT admin level accounts, and there's some restrictions for the VA and how you get access to certain things, but that's just a process, really. You know, but I do think that might be an option for you know, what Luciana has access to or recently gained access to. The VA chatbot team is using that as well. There's but I just want to kind of share with you that kind of lab idea where you guys can start, you know, getting your hands dirty a little bit, right? I think that's a good direction, right? And our team would love to, you know, help you guys be successful, right, and help the veteran.
Yeah.
So that's
just
our
wanted
goal.
Just wanted to know if that's the possibility of doing that, and what sort of options are open to us. But I feel like I've talked plenty, so I can yield to anyone else.
Yeah, so I think we probably need to, you know, watch our time here. We're over. We appreciate the extra time, guys. Why don't we just you know, set up a follow-up? I know we were going to talk a little bit more about sort of the language stuff as well. We had prepared. We had worked on preparing something of switching from English to Spanish, but our demo environment kind of hit some limitations in doing that. So we have that as a follow-up if you still want to see that. And we can also, you know, put anything else on the table that we'd like to discuss. So appreciate that. Any overall feedback you guys are open to sharing? Was this helpful in helping in to illustrate what's possible with our stack?
Yeah, I thought it was great. Thank you for this demo and for your time. Yeah, I personally thought it was beneficial. It's always great to see, you know, what else is out there. And again, you know, we talk about other demos, or at least recordings of other demos. But no, it's great, and it's great to see what else is out there. So I don't have any other feedback. But yeah, thank you very much for your time.
Good.
Anything else for anyone? Okay. Well, Brian and team, thank you very much.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, John. Thank you, team. Appreciate it. We'll look to get some follow-ups out to you and look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Great discussion. Thanks, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks.
Yeah.